too.
And Mankato State they beat. So
Took care of
Later
business.
this season, when the playoffs, they kind of peter out. They've got their loss out of the way, so mark it on your
how do you
calendar.
recover from that?
Yeah, well, there's two ways you can look at that. A, it's extremely deflating. You're
Do
gonna.
you think BSU will be over or under 60 points?
I gotta
Or at least
go.
women's side.
Yeah, I gotta go
I do
with.
think though, I think Bemidji's got the upper hand, but if I had to pick the winner, I got to go with my heart instead of my head.
Set them up to be in a good position to kind of overtake some teams this weekend if they can take care of business. in the
What's your
state.
thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're more excited about this than anybody. You're sending me texts during the state tournament when they were playing the whole time, like, oh man, Bemidji's got to get this guy. They got to go recruit him.
Welcome to the Huddle. I'm your host, Zachary Lunt. This is my co-host over here, Dan Amundsen.
How you doing today?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off with softball. Softball's next game is April 13th against Upper Iowa. But let's start with a question here. Is the softball team slowing down?
Well, we talked about that last week. Their conference play hadn't been as good as it had been in the non-conference play. So that could be a factor again that we were talking about. That now they're playing some better teams, some teams that have played them in the past, so they've got some stats on them, some history. A lot of teams at these upper levels, they'll have one person on the bench doing this specifically, whether it's a coach or a bench player, or whatever. They'll have a book. A lot of people might call it like a TPI chart or something, but they'll have a book that they're sitting down writing on every single player, every single at bat, what pitches they're throwing, what happened at that at bat, and they're looking for tendencies. And so these conference teams are going to have that on Bemidji State, and likewise, Bemidji State should have that on those other teams. So you get some of those returning players, you're getting tendencies, and so you're kind of able to figure that out, and you're just familiar with the team more, and so you see that more in conference play. So it gets tougher, and the competition, the teams are probably better. A lot of times in college non-conference, you play teams that just aren't as good. It seems to be what happens, and so that just could be something they're running into.
Yeah, and these games that they're playing against, I mean, we were talking about earlier, conference play can make a difference.
Yeah.
They didn't really play much in the beginning, and they were on a hot roll, or they're like almost like a 5-game losing streak at the very beginning there, and then caught a couple of losses. But hey, they've been doing really great this season.
They have. They've been a good team to watch, better than anything else happening this
Yeah, that's definitely true, especially with the baseball team. Let's transition to the baseball team here because we just bring it in here. Who do we think is the problem for the baseball team here?
Well, in what regards?
Well, so right now they're 3-24. Do we think like the coaching staff, or is it the players? What's going on with the team?
Well, so you look at Bemidji State baseball history. They've never had a good team ever, and that could be a sign of, hey, maybe we need a coaching change, maybe. But then you look at the way the team's playing. You look at the box score. Again, I have not watched them play in person. I haven't watched them play since their season opener last season. And so, but you can look at the box score, and I hate doing that, but I can get a good picture of how they're playing. You look at their ERA is terrible, the run differential is terrible, and they're making errors in every single game. And the thing that stands out to me is their ERA is high, which means they're allowing earned runs. And remember, when you have errors, those runs aren't earned. And so that disregards every single other run. So you're letting up too many runs total. And those errors are something that's basically, in my mind, that's a fundamental problem. It means they're not doing things the way they should be, the way they're taught growing up, like through Little League, like at elementary school, middle school, and even in high school, you teach fundamentals. At this level, a Division II college program, you shouldn't have to teach fundamentals. And maybe that's the coaching staff hasn't recognized that, hey, maybe we need to with these players, and it's always good to go over your fundamentals. The pros do it, they practice it all the time, and you should always practice it, but you shouldn't ever really have to teach it. Those are stuff you should have down at this level, and so that's where I think it falls on the players. But at the same time, the coaches might need to do a better job of teaching mental toughness, which is, again, is something you should have had going into high school. If you're a college baseball player, that's something you should have had in high school. But it's something you might need to think, make an error, you flush it, you forget it, make the next play, because errors always happen. So I think it's really both parts, but at the same time, I don't like the way the players are playing.
Yeah, and it's the players, I don't know if it's this, it could be even get in a mental state where they're just not playing in the state of mind that they need to be playing. So you got, right now they're on I think a 2 or 3 game losing streak right now, and before they're only 3-24 right now, so I mean they haven't won a lot of games, so it could be that they're just morale now is down.
Yeah, and when you play for a program like this, I guarantee you nobody else, all of Bemidji State's opponents are not taking them seriously. They won't take them seriously at all. They look at this team, historically they're bad, this year they're bad again, they're not being taken seriously, and when that happens, you start to not take yourself seriously. It's hard to show up to practice every day. It's like, well, why are we even showing up? We're going to lose, and you get into that mindset, you can't get out of it, and you're not going to fix yourself. You got to go into the mindset, yeah, we're going to go win this game, we're good enough, let's go prove these guys wrong, and I don't think they just have that, and I also don't think the coaching staff's doing a good enough job of encouraging that. And when I watch them play, I haven't liked. Granted, I'm up in the stands, not listening to what coaches are saying or anything. I didn't like the presence the coaches had. I didn't like their body language, and that's a big thing in sports. You got to have good body language, and otherwise that reflects off, and that's contagious. You know, you have one guy who has poor body language and doesn't look like he's in a good mood. The whole team starts reflecting on that, especially when it's your leader, like your head coach.
Oh yeah, especially.
That's a big thing, and so there might need to be some improvements there as well. And with every sport, it's a team effort. Coaches got to get better, players got to get better, everybody's got to get better at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's also with like team conflicts. Like if somebody's doing bad with, say, a player or pitcher, would say pitching especially is a big thing.
Yeah.
If a pitcher's doing really bad, a lot of players might not like them or something for some reason, and then that starts building on bad chemistry with everybody else.
Yep.
So I mean, the rest of the team's just going down, everything else, the morale and all that.
Yeah, you can start to get cliques on that team where you've got half the team who doesn't like this guy, half the team who does, and then it starts to kind of have that. But almost a lot of teams have that. You've got some people you don't like and kind of work through it. But
yeah,
you can have those problems, and you cannot get divided. As the old saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. It plays true in team sports, absolutely.
Yep, for sure. Well, let's get into football here. It is spring training has started this upcoming week, so they're starting practice now again. Should we be worried about Brandon Alt coming back from his ACL tear?
Well, yeah, that's always something to be concerned about, especially since that's always been kind of a one-year injury. So that makes the fact he's been on the field, he's been practicing. You know, they're about to kind of wrap things up. They've got their spring game, I think, next weekend. And so they're about to kind of wrap things up, but he's been on the field. Everyone I've been hearing from says he looks decent. I'm sure he's not at 100%. You know, they're not doing any contact. They're just trying to get out of there with as little injuries as possible. But the fact he's on the field actually playing, running around, that's a great sign. Tells me, though, that like the injury was probably a big major one. And granted, a season-ending injury, it's always major, but it tells me that he should be back. I would expect him to start if everything goes as planned. It's hard to say because they've got other people coming in. It's going to be a competition come fall, come August. It's always a competition. Nothing's ever handed to you in college sports. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think he'll be right in the running to be the starting quarterback come September 5th.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're leaning him on practice, though, just because of the injury of ending season. They don't want to lose him again because he was their starter last season, at the beginning of the season, as a freshman.
Redshirt freshman, yep.
Yep, especially, yeah. And it's crazy to be as a freshman coming into a new team and then becoming the starter like that. And coming through that process from the high school and then going to the college level. So do you think Brandon Alt will stay at the level that he's at, that he was playing last season at the beginning?
I'd like to hope so. He's an athletic kid. He's got a great arm. I think his arm will be fantastic still. Obviously, that wasn't injured at all, so he's able to keep working on that and whatnot. But he was also great on the ground. He was able to scramble around, avoid sacks, do what a good quarterback's supposed to do. So you got to be careful of that. You know, you've seen some players come back from an ACL tear in all of history, and some of them come back fantastic. Look at Adrian Peterson. Granted, he's a freak athlete, but look at him, and he came back off that ACL tear and had one of the greatest seasons of his career. But not everyone's the same, and that you could come back and not be the same and be a little worse. I'm sure early on he'll be a little tentative, you know, and probably not wanting to get hit as much, stuff like that. He'll be a little not scared isn't really the right word, but that's kind of the way it is. You get a little worried about re-injuring yourself on an injury like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little tentative in those first few weeks, but I think he'll get right back in the groove.
Yeah, especially with the coaches. I'm sure the coaches aren't going to let him run very much. It's just like in the pro sports when their quarterback gets an ACL tear or possibly anything worse than that. You know, they don't want to play them as much, or I should say as dangerously. Aggressive. Yeah. Just like when the professional sports, like I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, so when Mariota got his injury, they didn't want him to run a lot, so they played for most of the season without running him, making him run the ball or go outside the pocket. They wanted him to stay in the pocket and have the offensive line protect him.
Yeah, and granted, what I know from Alt, I think he's kind of a stubborn kid. And so the coaches might tell him that, but he's going to say, screw this, I'm going to make a play with my legs if I can make a play with my legs.
Yeah, especially.
So he might be in that kind of situation. But yeah, I'm sure, and they'll see the way things go in August and these next couple of weeks with spring practice. If he looks good, he's going to be out there and he's going to be doing what he's comfortable doing with what the trainers say he can do. But I'm sure he'll be right back at where he should be come this fall.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got for this week. We'll see you guys next week.